Good evening, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us. It is really an honor for me to welcome you back to DAR Constitution Hall for a progress report on our President General's project. Of course, we know it as Phase 3, the next act for Constitution Hall. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to show you all the progress that we've made. You may not recognize the background behind me. Hard to believe that is our hall, but I assure you that I am here. It is live, and to give you a sense of perspective as to the view that you're looking at behind me, we did put the Mississippi seal on the front of the Mississippi box, this side. Sorry. You can tell this is live, folks, but I just wanted to give you an appreciation for what you're looking at behind me. Our beautiful new poured concrete floor. The chairs have been removed from the upper tiers and some of the scaffolding still remaining. And this is intended to give you some idea as to all the work that has been transpiring here at Constitution Hall. We're recording this live on February the 3rd for the benefit of the members of the National Board of Management, our national chairs, and members and volunteers of the Development Committee. These are the ladies who, for the most part, would have been here with us in person in February were it not for the pandemic. And these are also the ladies who are helping us in leadership roles in terms of our fundraising. I have to tell you that this is a large project, but it's also an expensive one. We're estimating the cost now at more than $14 million. So this is the single largest President General's one administration project that we've ever undertaken in the history of our society. We're so grateful for all the support that's making it possible, and that's what tonight is all about, celebrating it. I do want to let you know that the program is being recorded, and we will be airing it at a later date for the benefit of all of our members so that they too can appreciate their contributions. I wanted to give everyone an insider's glimpse into what is happening. This is a direct result of the philanthropic benefit that we have of our members. More than 30,000 donors have so far contributed to this monumental undertaking. And I want to start the program tonight by taking you on a short video tour of some of the work that we've already been working on. So here we go.
I sure wish that you could be with me here at our beautiful headquarters in the heart of Washington, D.C. But since you can't, I'm delighted to be able to give you an insider's glimpse into all of the construction work that we have ongoing as part of Phase 3, the next act, the monumental restoration of DAR Constitution Hall. Before we go in, we've got to make sure we follow our safety protocols. So I'll put on my hard hat, and before I put on my mask, I'll just say, follow me. Finally, my big chance to get on stage. It is a joy for me to have an opportunity to introduce you to Mary Sang, who is the project manager here on the restoration of Constitution Hall. She is leading really what have over the course of this project been hundreds of people who've been working on the project. And I wanted Mary to give us an overview, a reaction, a response to how she feels to have been a part of this.
Well, I'm thrilled to be a part of this. I have a great team, and we have a great set of workers here as well. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the perfect project for me. I have a background in historic preservation, and I also am a theater person. I've done a lot of theatrical work over time, and so this is a dream job.
Great. Can you give us a description and overview, if you will, of all the scaffolding that is currently in place, or what has been in place as part of this project? The scaffolding alone was a massive undertaking. Let's talk about that and what it enabled us to do.
So we tried to be strategic in where we got scaffolding, because we knew that when it went up, it would have to be up for a while, and it is an expense. We started out with scaffolding on the stage, and then added it progressively as we went around from the south part to the west to the north in the theater. The work was completed over the scaffolding on the stage. Having it in place meant that we could address all of the plaster repairs, following the plaster repair, painting those repairs, installing some drywall to bridge the gap between the lay light and the fabric installation. And then of course all of the fabric work and trimming out the light fixtures, all those little trim rings you see on the light fixtures and the cover plates for the sprinkler heads all get done from the scaffolding. And as those last little details go in, the scaffolding can start to come out.
Let's take a little time and talk about what's happening where we can't see, above the ceiling level here. For example, let's start with the steel supports that are there. Tell us, if you might, the original situation involved the ability to even open and close the lay light. There's a lot going on in that attic. Tell us what is up there and what we're doing to make this a solid project, a solid performance hall that will carry us for the next 100 years.
There's a system of steel trusses up there that are part of the structural support, and we have a company on site that's going through and improving the structure. Overall, there's 7 trusses and tensioning rods being installed, and we're actually at the point of tensioning all of those rods. After that point, we will be ready to start putting in rigging steel as well as a catwalk system. This catwalk system is pretty extensive, and it's going to provide access to all 972 lay lights in the ceiling. So that will be a good benefit to the theater. A big part that our members will never have an opportunity to see is all that's been done in terms of the electrical here in the building. Can you give us an order of magnitude? What's been going on the electrical side? So there's quite a bit of what's referred to as electrical rough-in in the attic area to support all of the new lighting that you'll see from down below. Is also to support the process of the steel work. A lot of conduit and duct work had to be altered to make room for the steel work to happen. So that's been a big part of the work up there. Mary, tell me what some of the remaining major components are and maybe when you expect to be completed. Okay, sure. So the big pieces moving into place will be getting tile and carpet on the orchestra floor, as well as seating after that, and then up in the tiers, painting repairing and painting the concrete, and then installing the chairs. And all of that will be falling into place over the next couple months. We hope to be substantially complete by mid-April.
One of the most unique, the most beautiful, and frankly one of my most favorite parts of DAR Constitution Hall is our amazing set of state seals. There are 55 of them in total. They were made specifically for DAR Constitution Hall. In fact, they were made before some of the states joined the Union, but we added on as they joined, and I'm so delighted to show you the state seal of Hawaii. You'll notice that it is very vibrant. That's because we had all of the state seals sent out, had all the old varnish removed. They were cleaned, the colors were made more vibrant, the beautiful gold rim around them was refurbished. And so we're very excited that we've been able to restore this important part of DAR Constitution Hall history. But at the same time, I'm also excited that now we're using technology to be able to reproduce a set of these seals. So I'm going to again introduce you to Mary, and she's going to tell us about the technology that's enabled us to replicate our famous set. Mary?
Sure. So we had a company come in and do a digital scan of one of the seals so that they could create a 3D model which takes into account the curve of the face of the seal and its overall dimensions and profile. From that, they'll be able to create a substrate for all of the seals, and then they're going to take high-resolution digital photography of each of the seals so that they can print the images onto this replica substrate, so that you'll have a replica that you can put up when you want to take the originals down.
So we're very grateful for your financial support. It has enabled us to be able to not only restore our historic originals, but also to replicate a second set that can now be enjoyed by all those 500,000 visitors who come to DAR Constitution Hall every year.
So now I have the pleasure to be joined by Ann Poff, and Ann is the project architect, and you can't tell, but she is smiling, a big broad smile beneath that mask, because we've been making so much progress here. So I had a couple areas that Ann's been involved with, and I want to speak to her about them. Let's talk about the orchestra wall to begin with. What is different about it than the wall that was there before?
So historically, we'll start from the beginning. This actual wall here is out about 5 inches from the historic wall. It was added in the 1990s for acoustical reasons, and then the track above the wall is actually a cable tray that sends power to the stage for production. So we wanted to keep the wall and make it as close to historically accurate aesthetically as possible. So what we did is we removed a lot of the trim that was added in the 90s that was not historic, and we wanted the wall to sort of be this one smooth plain surface here, and then the top of the wall is actually 4 inches of acoustic paneling. And once it was installed, the acoustics in here improved immediately.
Let's talk about overhead. We have an amazing ceiling here. We're going to talk about the lay light in a minute, but first let's continue on the acoustic theme and tell me what we've done to improve the ceiling, including restore those original colors. Is that right?
So we had a historic paint analysis done where they actually cut out pieces of paint and look at them under a microscope to figure out what the colors were in here originally. Prior to this restoration, everything was gray. It was a very dark space. And we found out that the original colors picked by John Russell Pope, the original architect, were very light off-white colors.
Not only are the acoustics going to be better, but it looks lovely. I'm so anxious for our daughters to return here and to be able to see how much brighter and lighter and whiter the space is. Your eye is drawn there, and your eye is really drawn to a lot of the ornamental plaster details. So I do want to talk to Ann about some of those. Tell us what you can see now as you look up towards the ceiling and, in fact, all the way around the hall in terms of plaster.
Sure. So we had a really great plaster subcontractor, Hales and Howe, come in and restore all of the plaster. So you can see at the ceiling, all of the dentils, all the grill scrolls at the grill, that's all plaster. It's plaster mold that was applied. So they went up there, we had scaffolding all the way at the top, and they went through and fixed every single little crack and every piece of chip plaster that was up there, so it could remain for years.
So his crowning glory here was the lay light overhead. Tell those who are watching who may not be familiar even with what it is or was, what was the lay light designed to do, and how did it work originally?
So originally, a lay light is designed to bring daylight into the space. So how a lay light works is the roof is actually a skylight, and the roof brings in pure sunlight. And then the lay light is actually a horizontal surface that diffuses the light, daylight, into the space. So it really was this really beautiful, bright, daylit space originally, and we're hoping to bring that back.
Wow, and we're excited, of course, because that meant at night overhead they enjoy concerts and lectures under the stars. So our ladies have really been enthusiastic about the fact that though we cannot restore the lay light due to the fact that it was covered over, now there's a solar panel there, we are now introducing LED technology that's going to give us the same effect. So tell us about the challenge that we put to you to return that day and nighttime sky overhead.
Yes, so typically our firm actually has done quite a few false lay lights, is what they're called, with LED panels that mimic the daylight. But with this project, we had an extra element. We wanted stars. You wanted stars in the ceiling. So what we did is we worked with these lighting manufacturers. This product doesn't exist until now. So what we had to do is create a light fixture that had a daylight element, which is your typical daylit LED panel, and then we had a starlight panel that is actually behind it. So we have these two different light fixtures kind of fused into one, so that basically you can turn on the daylight and then turn on the starlight, and we saw the mock-up, it's going to look amazing.
Well, we're grateful for your willingness to try something really radically new and different. As you said, this doesn't exist anywhere else. And so we're thrilled that we're able to marry historic preservation with modern technology here on this restoration. So some of the most challenging and yet exciting parts of this restoration have been selecting the finishes, and we've looked to the very best of our ability to do so in a historically appropriate way. Historic preservation, of course, is one of our 3 primary aims as a society. So we looked whenever possible to be able to restore things as they were during the design phase, 1929 and 1930 during the opening. We've looked at everything from the historic exit signs, which are being restored as part of this, to the historic molding in the building. We've, to the very best of our ability, returned the original color palette to DAR Constitution Hall. So our beautiful overhead ceiling will now be in its original color scheme. Some of the most difficult choices involve the most obvious things: what to do about our seats. So I'm excited to tell you that we actually worked with a photograph from the dedication ceremony to identify the pattern. We looked at John Russell Pope, the designer's notes, and we realized that that design was actually done in blue and taupe, the color of Washington's regiments. And we were able here in the United States to reproduce exactly the historic fabric that was once on our chairs when the hall was dedicated in 1930. We did have to replace all of the chairs in Constitution Hall. The cost was less expensive to replace them with brand new chairs than it was to restore the 1970 era chairs that had been in our hall. And so, to the best of our ability, we've now selected a chair style and wood treatment that reflects those original seats that were in our auditorium. And finally, one of the other big decisions was what to do about the carpeting. The hall, believe it or not, at its dedication had a dark green floor. We did opt not to pursue that. We wanted to pursue something that we felt would better complement the building. In fact, we wanted to be able to complement Mrs. Dillon's restored historic mural on the stage, as well as the beautiful carpet and finishing treatments that were completed in the foyer restoration done during the Young administration. So after a lot of trial and error and selection options, we have now, and I'm excited to unveil this for you, chosen the carpet design that will be featured in our new Constitution Hall when finally you get to see it. I hope you agree that it's beautiful. It does draw not only from the historic palette, but also from those other 2 adjoining President General's projects, as I mentioned to you. I want you to imagine that this carpet will be complemented by an orchestra wall that will now be this color, the navy blue color, and imagine the historic state seals now juxtaposed against this dark color. We think this color combination is going to be magnificent. In addition, the floor beneath the seats was again green. We have now opted to instead go with a dark red color. There is a lot of this shade in the mural on the stage, and we think that's going to pull the stage now into DAR Constitution Hall proper. And the last thing that I want to share with you is the fact that there will be several medallions placed throughout the carpet in the hall, and the large center medallion is really going to be spectacular. This is the design for it. So much to look forward to, ladies. So grateful for all the support you've provided that's making all of this possible.
So how about some sunshine hands for all the progress that we have been making? I hope you have a better appreciation for all of the work that's been ongoing here at Constitution Hall after watching that short video. And the rest of tonight's program is going to provide you an opportunity to hear more from the wonderful women who were featured in that video. So it's really a joy for me to introduce you to both Mary and Ann. And I'm going to begin by asking them to tell us a little bit more about themselves. Mary, we'll start with you. You are, of course, our project manager. You're with Chrisman and Company. So tell me, if you would, your academic background and your prior experience that brought you to DAR Constitution Hall's restoration.
Sure. Thank you. I have a master's in historic preservation from the University of Maryland, and I've worked at a couple of different jobs since then. I worked on the old executive office building just a couple blocks away from here, as well as a very old 18th century lithograph building in Baltimore, so kind of a range of work. I came to Chrisman to start working at the Russell Senate Office building, and then when there was a need for a project manager at DAR, I joined the group back in June.
Very good. Well, we are thrilled to have you, and I would like our ladies to better understand Chrisman and Company. Can you tell us about the scope of the firm and what kind of work and project it does?
So Chrisman is a pretty large firm. It's all over the country. The headquarters is in Lansing, Michigan, and they've got offices all over the country. There's a local regional office here in Virginia, and there's a range of work that they do, including construction management, historic preservation projects, offices. You heard me mention Russell, that's a government office building. And I guess the thing that drew me to Chrisman is their core values, which include integrity in how they operate and building lasting relationships and having a passion for our work, to name a few. And those were very compelling qualities for me.
Well, we are just thrilled that you and Chrisman are both on this job with us, Mary. So thank you. Also, you met in the video Ann Kopp, and Ann is with Quinn Evans Architects. She's our project architect, and I will ask her to tell us about her background. Welcome, Ann.
Hello, thanks for having us. So I am originally from Michigan. I previously was a graphic designer and then decided to follow my true love, which is restoring historic buildings. I went and got a master's degree in architecture and a certificate in preservation from University of Maryland. I joined Quinn Evans about 5 years ago, and I've actually been project architect on a couple previous projects, including the stage restoration and the museum gallery restoration. So
very good. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about Quinn Evans as well? We have a long-standing relationship with them.
Sure. Quinn Evans is a large firm. We've got about 5 offices in the Mid-Atlantic and then the Midwest. We do a lot of historic preservation work. We are all about sustainability and just the inherent sustainability in restoring old buildings and not wasting them and tearing them down. So that was a big draw for me. Also, we are half women, which is unusual in this industry. So that was huge.
We're certainly very proud to say that the 2 primary engines behind this project are females, and so we're really grateful to have you on our team here at DAR, and I'm grateful to have you here this evening so that we can expound on some of the things that we discussed in the video. I do want to let our viewers know that if they have a question, they can actually send it to us at publicrelations@dar.org, and we have a mechanism that those can be delivered to me here. And if we have time, we'll answer a couple questions, but I want everyone to know that if there are additional ones that we don't have the time to get to, there will be a forthcoming blog, and we will do our best to answer any questions that might come into us. So without further ado, this is just going to be a free-flowing, fun conversation to talk about this massive monumental restoration of ours. And I want to kind of level set the members who are watching you now to give the average member who perhaps might not be familiar with what we're trying to do here in phase 3, a big picture overview as to what is happening on this job. So Mary, can you give us that kind of big picture perception or appreciation for this phase of the project?
Okay, I'll just start from the top down and let you know the big pieces that are happening. There's some major structural improvements happening in the attic, and as well as a catwalk being installed to allow access to the ley light system. And there are new lights going in throughout, including, I'm sure we'll talk more about the ley lights in detail, but as well as light fixtures in the cove. The scaffolding that you see behind in the background is to support that process, as well as new fabric and acoustic core material being installed in the curved cove part of the ceiling, as well as some of the plaster work going on the cornice, and as well as the center part of the ley light. Moving into the theater itself proper, we're replacing all of the seats. We had to replace most of the concrete on the main floor, as well as, of course, there'll be new tile and carpet going in as well. The passageways are being improved, and then there's work going on backstage and in the dressing rooms in the basement.
It is soup to nuts restoration of our beautiful hall. The women who are watching you know every nook and cranny of this building, so they're hanging on your every word, Mary. So thank you for that. One of the biggest parts of this project for us and the most exciting has been the restoration of our lay light. And as was noted in the video, we can't bring it back to its original state, but we're really excited about the potential to marry modern technology with historic preservation. It's kind of a part of our DNA here in DAR to embrace technology while at the same time preserving our past. Those lay light panels, 970 of them, are all going to be individual panels, and designing this entire system was really avant-garde. No one had done anything like this. So Anne, maybe if you want to respond to this, let's talk about the technology that is going to enable that day and nighttime sky to be a part of our restored hall.
Sure. So the whole system is very complex. We're working with a performing arts center that needs flexibility, as well as tying in the restoration. So we are having 972 individual LED panels made for the ceiling. Like I mentioned in the video, there's a daylight and then a starlight portion of the fixture. And what's really interesting that made this even more complex is that we need every single one to be removable, so that for performances they can actually lift them out and rig through it, through the ceiling. So we created this massive complex, as Mary mentioned before, this complex catwalk system over the ceiling, so that we can actually walk over it. There's a lot of safety. The riggers will be much safer when they're up there working, and they can lift out a grate from the catwalk and lift out the light fixture and rig and then put it all back, and it's going to be amazing.
Yes, and I know that you doubted my sanity when I first told you that we really wanted to bring back a nighttime sky, and I want to say how gracious and kind you have been to put up with this crazy President General. So
thanks for challenging us.
That I did. So since you mentioned above the ceiling, talking about the lay light, is there anything that either of you would like to share? Again, that is a place that most of these women will never see above the ceiling, and yet so much of what we've been working on has occurred up there. So can someone give us an appreciation for the different projects that are happening above the lay light, above the ceiling, where members will never have an opportunity to view?
I'll start, and then you can fill in with whatever I miss, okay? With all of the structural improvements, there's been a lot of large pieces of steel brought up through an opening in the lay light area up to the attic. And these pieces have been welded into place, and it's been complicated because there's a lot of stuff up there in the attic already. And we've discovered steel doesn't bend very well, so you have to get things out of the way. Ductwork, conduit, things had to be sort of rerouted in some cases. The ductwork sometimes has asbestos materials that had to be abated before work could happen. When we weld the steel together, we have to take care of any lead abatement before the welding can happen. So it's pretty complex. And I mentioned the tensioning in the video. We actually started tensioning yesterday and continued on it today. And that's a pretty complex process as well.
Thank you. The viewers may not appreciate the fact that every time we uncovered something, we knew certainly that there were going to be asbestos issues, that there were going to be lead paint issues. We knew that those were going to occur, but it took us opening up different sections of the ceiling, opening up different sections of the hall to really find the true nature of the extent that we had to remove. All of those elements added delays to the project, as did the complexities of the nation's capital shutting down, and as did the complexities of the pandemic. So all of this work has been proceeding despite all of these obstacles that have been thrown in front of it. And it's really a testament, I think, to your leadership, ladies. I think it's because they put the women in charge. That's why we're making all this progress. What do you think of that? My husband's watching, so he'll like that part. So I want to talk to you about the acoustics in the hall. We hope that this project is going to make a fundamental improvement in the visitor experience in terms of acoustics. So which of you would like to talk a little bit about the various elements that we've inserted that are going to help with that?
I can go with that one. So it's not just me. We have a whole team of engineers and consultants that are helping us out with this project. We have a team of acousticians who came in and took measurements in the hall and did several recommendations of where we should add acoustic paneling. So one of the main areas is the curved ceiling that originally was an acoustic ceiling, but it was painted over several times and it lost its acoustic quality. So we brought that back by installing 2-inch acoustic panels in the ceiling covered by an acoustic fabric layer. And again, once it was installed, the acoustics in there were great. We're also installing the 4-inch acoustic paneling on the orchestra wall that we talked about, the yellow behind Mrs. Van Buren. And then a few other places we're adding a little more acoustic absorbent material as well. So it's gonna sound great.
Good. I have to tell you what a vast improvement it is to see the ceiling, the new treatment that you've applied to the curved ceiling. In that the prior ceiling, as you said, had been painted over, it had been patched, it had a lot of visible damage. It had never been replaced since 1930, 1929, the opening of the hall. So that's a vast improvement in terms of the visitor experience when you come in. It's so bright and so clean and so welcoming now. Our ladies were particularly generous when it came to helping us to replace the chairs in the auditorium. I mentioned in the video that it was more expensive to restore the ones that were on the floor. They had been there since the 1970s. They were not original to the hall, and regrettably, they had a lot of issues with on the fly repairs, with glue issues, with temporary repairs, and frankly, wear and tear on them. And we just couldn't justify fixing 1970s era chairs when we could bring in new chairs. So can we talk a little bit about the chairs? Do you want to share with us some of the joy we had in reproducing the fabric and also selecting a chair that's more in keeping with what was here originally?
Sure, I can start and Mary can follow. So yeah, reproducing fabric, that's one of the most fun parts of doing historic restoration is looking at old photos and trying to piece together what we thought it looked like. We actually found old letters from the President General at the time to figure out what color it used to be. So that was really great to do. And like Mrs. Van Buren said, you know, the chairs were in bad shape. So we felt that new chairs that are going to last another 30 to 50 years, hopefully, they'll be more comfortable. And we took a lot of time to make sure the fabric was right, make sure that the shape, the back of the chair was the shape that matched the historic seat. We took a lot of time to try and marry sort of these new seats with the historic design.
Well, we're grateful for that attention to detail. Mary, did you want to add anything on that?
I think she covered it all. I was going to add that they presumably would be much more comfortable. And I will say that we saved the end standards, those the older style end standards, and they're being retrofit to work with the new chairs. The new chairs are a little bit taller where the armrest is, and so they're being retrofit and repainted to bring them back to their original look.
Well, thank you for all of this attention to detail. It means so much. And I realized in watching the video that I did say that the chair colors are blue and taupe, which is not correct. Washington's standard was blue and buff. And so that's the official color palette. And I was really excited that we could reproduce this in the United States and have something historically appropriate on the chairs as he designed. So thank you for going the extra mile with us on that. Natural next subject then is the carpet. Now, it might seem that that would be an easy choice, but we had a lot of things going on here. We had a lot of color options to think about. And I'd like, you know, Anne or Mary, I guess maybe Anne's one working more with some of the finishes. Talk to us a little bit about how we went about selecting that carpet design that we did.
Sure. So I believe in the video, you saw the pattern. A lot of carpet design from that era actually took elements of architectural elements from the building and put that into carpeting. So we went, we kept with the style. The border on the carpeting is actually the plaster detailing at the top of the tiers. The rosettes at the top of the tiers are going to be seen in the carpeting. And we also pulled some elements from the lobby carpet to try and make it cohesive as well. And the medallions that you saw, it's actually a combination of the plaster detailing and then in the lobby, the light fixtures, that beautiful scroll medallion is what we use to bring that into the auditorium. So it's a really cohesive design. We looked at all sorts of different colors. We had giant printouts. We had Mrs. Van Buren and the whole gang on site to look at it and choose the finishes. And I think we have a good direction moving forward.
Well, again, I thank you for your patience because I know I demanded a lot of you, but I can't wait for the ladies to come back to the building and see this beautiful new auditorium all ready for them. Announcement that I wanted to make tonight, a couple of things we've not disclosed publicly. We are returning the sconces to the tiers. We are not able, we don't have the original sconces that were once there for lighting on the upper levels, as you see behind me here. But we are able to replicate those sconces. So can you talk a little bit about why we're doing that and how that's progressing?
Sure. So we looked at historic photos, found that there were historic sconces at the tiers. There were also historic two-headed sconces at the passageways, the exit passageways. And we felt that we needed to have a durable fixture because this gets a lot of wear and tear, as you all know, with something that was inspired and very similar to what was there historically. So we were able to find fixtures, off-the-shelf fixtures that were pretty close to what they were historically. We're going to have some really beautiful lighting in this area, in addition to the lay light.
I'm very pleased because I think from a safety perspective too, for those who enjoy the view from the tiers, will now have more lighting. Mary, one of the other exciting new things we're unveiling on our program tonight is the fact that we are for the first time going to be giving our ladies from Hawaii and Alaska their own boxes. Is that right? So can you talk about how that design is progressing?
Sure. Well, there's in the corner behind where you're sitting, directly opposite from you, and the opposite corner, we're working on actually Quinn Evans is working on a design that will allow us to put a box in for Hawaii and Alaska, is such that we can take over a section of seats, have a railing, have a wall, so that it's as close as possible to the box arrangement for the other states, and yet at the same time not have to eliminate any seating that DAR can sell for other events. So when it's not the Congress, those items can be removable. The railing and the wall can be removable. So Quinn Evans is going to work on a final design for that. We already have a schematic concept, but we'll be able to have, I think it's 5 seats that are in each box area.
It's great. We're excited for that. And one question that I do get regularly from the members is, are we able to also improve the handicapped accessibility here in the hall? Can either of you address how we'll be making that more user-friendly?
So there's areas on the orchestra level where you can have wheelchairs, or you can, if the space is not needed for wheelchairs, you can put in movable seats. And there's also even some places up in the tiers where the side panel, the side end standard can either turn or flip away for somebody, maybe not somebody in a wheelchair, but somebody who has access issues. And there's a certain number that are just required by code. And I know Quinn Evans had to get very creative to come up with enough spaces and yet still maintain the design. And if you have anything to add to that.
Sure. We are adding lifts to the stage from the auditorium and backstage. And we are doing a significant number of accessibility improvements backstage for the performers, including accessible dressing room spaces and some accessible bathrooms as well. So it'll be a huge improvement.
I should mention so many of the states and the regions have been so generous, our individual members, and I do want to mention the state of Florida has been working on our downstairs dressing room. So that is part of this project too, not, on this floor proper, but something that has, been enveloped within it. And we're so grateful for everyone's support. Bren, I'm wondering, our wonderful Bren Landon is here from the PR department. If we had any questions from that PR email, and we'll see if any of you ladies have. These are the difficult questions, ladies, now.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Well, not so difficult. Maybe Mary, we'll start with you. What was the most challenging part of the project for you?
Well, I guess two things. Actually, the main thing is the problem that we kept running into with the fact that there are duck grills on the floor of the orchestra as well as the tiers. And particularly in the tiers, it seemed like everywhere there was one of those grill covers is exactly where a leg of a seat needed to land. And you cannot anchor a seat to something like that. So that was a real challenge. And what we ended up doing about that is the seating company, Ducharme, has an offset leg design that they have just for us. And there are quite a few of them up in the tiers, and you'll see some of them down on the orchestra level too. If that leg has to land directly where the grill is, it just takes a jag over and then gets properly anchored to the floor.
Such is the joy of restoring an old building, right? So
yeah. And I guess the other challenge, and I guess the other challenge was trying to unravel or unpack all of the conflicts with the steel work in the attic. That was time consuming and challenging, and I think we're finally out of the woods on that. So
good. And Anne, what was the most challenging part from your end as the project engineer, architect?
I would say one, doing a construction project during a pandemic. That was new. And then I honestly would have to agree with Mary. The attic was such a challenge. Access up there, access over the curved ceiling was very challenging. Laying out all of the light fixtures, the new light fixtures in the curved ceiling, figuring out where they go and trying to avoid, wires and pipes and all of that was very challenging. But the subcontractors did a great job, actually. So. Yeah.
And speaking of subcontractors, I do just want to mention that you've had hundreds of people working on the job, male and female, and I think I saw a number about 26,000 person hours. Is that right?
That sounds right. It might actually even be more than that now, but it's been quite a few. We do have some really great subcontractors all across the board. We've been really happy with their dedication and their excellent work.
Good. Well, thank you for also not saying the most challenging part was dealing with me.
No, gosh.
Gold star. It's kind of fun for me to see the ladies without their hard hats and their masks, because every time we're together, all you can see is each of our eyes. So this is kind of a treat. One of the other questions that came in, I think I can probably answer, what impact has the loss of rental income had during the project? Well, if there was some small silver lining and something of an irony here is the fact that due to the pandemic, as Anne mentioned, we would have lost all of our rental income because of the pandemic regardless. And so perhaps that was the hand of fate that had us in the construction business during this time when people are not renting. I do want to let you know that Paul Gilderson, who runs DAR Constitution Hall, has told me that many of our returning acts and vendors and groups that come in here are really excited about what we are doing to our hall. everything from the Horatio Alger Awards to the military band concerts. Everybody's really jazzed about what we're going to be able to offer in the future. So this is going to be a benefit for us. Since DAR Constitution Hall was built, there have been several other performing arts venues that have come online in the District of Columbia. It's a little bit harder for us to compete for some of these shows and acts that come into town. And we think this new restoration, particularly with our overhead lay light, is going to really give us a special niche in the market. And so we're excited for it. All of it, of course, is made possible because of our donors. So I do want to thank the ladies for taking time from busy lives to be with us tonight. They're exhausted. They work by day and they're covered in dust while they're here. And so it's really a treat to see them. I also want to thank some of the ladies who were on the call for their generosity. So allow me to put my glasses on. I'm so grateful in particular to the women from our development committee who served as what we called shooting stars, and they did some peer-to-peer fundraising for us. In the past, our Giving Tuesday and year-end giving would typically garner an astounding $20,000, and we'd be so grateful that our members were able to support us. It's really a privilege for me to tell you that as a result of our Selling Starlight campaign, these amazing women and our outstanding, generous members raised more than $900,000 during our Giving Tuesday event. So I'm really delighted to share that number with you. I think every member who has made participation in this project part of her budget. I know that everyone has their own means and their own ability to help us. And so no matter what the size of your gift has been, please know how grateful I am for it. I did want to kind of give you a status report as to where we are on phase 3, the restoration project. As of tonight, we have raised just about $7.5 million toward this project. That's in about 18 months. So that is remarkable. So Anna Mary, can you do the sunshine hands with me? You're the only ones on the screen. So some sunshine hands, that's pretty amazing. So we're about 3/4 of the way toward our goal, which is $10 million. I mentioned earlier, this is a $14 million project. The difference, that $4 million difference, actually we're able to take from existing accounts that were set aside for this purpose, as well as investment growth that has occurred. So we are still about $2.5 million away from our ultimate goal. But I'm confident, given our members' interest in this, given their pride in the building, given their recognition that our House Beautiful is a spectacular place that deserves to have a very special standard of excellence, I'm confident that we're going to be able to bring this project home. And in an administration that has, ironically enough, not enjoyed a great deal of sunshine, I do want to say that these shooting stars really shone brightly in order to help us get all of our members to take part in our Giving Tuesday for this monumental restoration of our National Historic Landmark. I don't own this building, and Mary and Ann don't own this building. We all, our members, own this building together. And I'm so grateful for, again, the 30,000 donations that we've received to date. So thanks for your continued support. My new motto is rise and shine until we get this over the finish line. Can we do it? You know we can. So thank you, ladies. Everybody, I'm glad you're here with us tonight.
Thank you.